All right, let's start with Apple today. Could have been saying, yay, it hit $3 trillion. It's a big day, but we're still just shy. Apple, remember, was the first company to ever reach $1 trillion. That was only in August of 2018. Look at this timeline. It doubled to $2 trillion just last year, and now we're talking about almost $3 trillion. It's been soaring literally in just the past month or so. Shares turned negative today after they peaked less than $1 away of the $3 trillion market cap. Let me quite simply, Danielle, ask if you'd be a buyer of Apple here.
Not right here. I own Apple. I love Apple. I've been trading Apple on a very frequent basis. But, this ticker has met all of my price targets. And at this point, because of the huge momentum move we've seen, we're much more likely to see it pull back in the near future. And at that point, it'll probably pull the NASDAQ back right along with it. And at that point, I'd be a buyer.
Okay. It's funny, Morgan, because earlier this year we were sort of talking about Apple was a little bit less exciting in terms of the performance. But now it's like, hey, it's like it got jealous that we were talking about other people and is really showing its stuff.
I know. It's had such a strong year. It's up something like 35% for the year. I mean, depending on which analyst you're following on Wall Street. I mean, Gene Munster spoke to him from Loop this morning. He sees another 38%, something like that, upside to the stock. It's a money-making machine. It's also been seen as a safe haven play amid all the broader market volatility. And then on top of it, you have these future initiatives, which we'll see when they materialize, how they materialize, but everything from Apple Car in the coming years to potentially a play on metaverse, even as the company is doubling down on privacy, which also seems to be something that is appealing to consumers. But the 5G aspect, perhaps we're not talking about that enough, Kelly, as you do start to see broader consumer adoption of 5G technology.
True, and we're not, talking about the car yet. We're not talking about the goggles, Tim, which could be a big story for next year, big catalyst there. It seems like the real debate around Apple is, do you want to own it because it's a $3 trillion company now with these new products in the pipeline, or do you not want to own it because that number is almost absurd?
Well, it seemed absurd in 2018 and then quickly in 2019. In other words, in a world where they say it's hardest to make your first million or get to your first trillion, in Apple's case, it's been pretty easy to get to the next level. It went to $1 trillion market cap at a 15, 16 times in 2018. It's 30 times forward here. Is it a different company? Yeah, I mean, the services industry, services component of their business is certainly a big part of it. 5G refresh. So this iPhone SE, I think a lot of people, Morgan brought up, just what 5G means, and I think that is very important. I think you have a case here where the 7% weighting in the S&P, that is Apple, is a blessing and a curse. And It's a blessing and a curse, and it has been for investors. On a day like today, where it's a pretty ugly tape below the surface, Apple is disguising a lot of that. At some point, Apple might actually be the tail or the dog. It's probably the dog today, but it might be the tail at some point.
But you're a buyer here, Tim, and other. I mean, maybe not a buyer, but it sounds to me like you're saying, this is, it makes sense.
I think the company, from a multiple perspective relative to the S&P, not relative to itself over a 5-year, because we know what's happened here, the cash flow generation here. I think the balance sheet and capital markets dynamics in terms of what they can do with buybacks alone. I think the installed base is part of why this business continues to be more valuable every day.